Lovely. A very good evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you're joining from. Very happy to have all of you here for yet another amazing learning session from the ICF Bengaluru Charter Chapter. You know, we are touching upon various tools, and today is going to be along the same lines. We have a new tool for us to discuss and talk about. This session is being recorded. If you choose to not be recorded, feel free to keep your video and audio off. However, we would like this to be an interactive session, so please keep your videos on. You can use the text chat, unmute and speak as required. That's how we would like it to be. So, what are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about accelerating coaching outcomes by understanding the three personas. Let me introduce the topic by asking you three questions. Are there things you can do for hours and never get tired? Yeah, I can see some
Yeah,
nods. Absolutely. Are there things that you would prefer to avoid? Things that really drain your energy disproportionately when you do them, when you engage with them? Yeah, again, a few nods. Thank you. And are there unproductive behaviors you may display uh, that surprise you, that are very characteristic of you, but when you demonstrate that, you're like, interesting. How did I behave in that way? Does that happen to you? Yeah. So yeah, I'm sure we'll have a yes for at least a couple of them here. So our motives and preferences give us energy. To make choices that impact the culture and the environment that we thrive in. Our natural and adapted behaviors show up in our performance, strengths, gaps. Our reaction and coping strategies to manage stress often lead to blind spots and unproductive responses. As coaches, we create safe space to encourage introspection and reflection that leads to awareness of one's driving motives, adapted behaviors, and stress induced reactions. Understanding the three personas and their interplay can help clients understand and identify their inner dissonance. By reducing time for diagnostics and emphasizing the mismatch, coaching can move with a laser focus by creating equilibrium. Who would not want to be in that space? To help us navigate the three personas, we have with us two very experienced and equipped people. They are not the people you saw on the posters. Unfortunately, Rahul is unable to be here, but we are in very safe hands of Neha and Anjani. Neha, if you could wave your hand so that everybody knows this is you. Neha is certified on two renowned psychometric assessment tools, Lumina Learning Suite and the Hogan assessments. She has been consulting in the area of psychometric for the past 8 years. She's practicing group facilitator and individual feedback expert for Lumina and Hogan assessment. She facilitates workshops for global leaders in diverse industries. She's very passionate about human psychology and aims to change a few lives for better, starting with her own as a part of the life journey. Neha's indulgence includes old meaningful songs, and she is a fan of stand up comic art. Thank you for being here, Neha. Anjani, if you could wave your hand so that everybody sees where you are. Um, Thank you. Anjani is a passionate HR generalist, and a multi genre coach known for building robust organizational systems. A PCC and a senior practitioner EMCC, she is certified in Lumina Spark and leader. She is a mentor and a guide who helps you recognize your full potential and then coaches you on how to achieve it. As a leader, she brings immense creativity and a can do attitude to every project that she undertakes. She's a maverick thinker who always strives to find imaginative solutions to possible problems. She is, when she's not working, she's a poet and a creator dabbling in mix of media art. She's an avid traveler, and in fact, she is not based in India as we speak today. I will let her introduce where she's speaking from. Having visited 38 countries and aspiring to see more of this world. Her most important role, though, is being a mom to her 11-year-old who keeps her on her toes. So, over to you, Neha and Anjani. We look forward to a phenomenal session.
Oh, sorry, I just realized I was speaking on mute. Thank you. Thank you so much, Shanti, for that wonderful introduction. And yes, we will, before we just get into the Lumina Spark journey of today, and hopefully by the end of the journey, we will be speaking the what we call as Luminese. That's the language we like to call. I just want to take a pause and understand if anybody here has anything that you would like to ask us before we start the journey today. We would really like to invite you for that. Anyone here, you can just unmute. Somehow I'm unable to access my chat while my screen is shared. Uh, so you can just unmute and ask. And meanwhile, Anjali, I will stop share so that you can start sharing your screen.
Neha, are you going first? I'm going first. Sorry.
Yeah.
My apologies.
Yeah. No, so I've just stopped share.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Oh. Right. Good evening, everyone. Neha's asked a very pertinent question. Any thoughts coming up? I'm looking at the chat box and waiting for anyone to say anything on that. You're all coaches, and it's almost overwhelming to be actually talking to coaches and sharing knowledge. So while I hope that we are able to do justice to your expectations, I would really love for you to, encourage us by kind of, yes, thank you for that response. All right, so today's session is fairly interactive, and what we want to do over the next 90 odd minutes is to share with you how I personally, as a coach, have used Lumina and the 3 personas in coaching, and how Lumina aims to share all of this information going forward. I think what has been an enabling journey for me in all of these in these years since I've been facilitated and credited by Lumina is that apart from having a coaching skill, which was there for the last 13 odd years, it just gave me an edge. And I was able to make sure that I combine data with what my coaching flow was, and actually create my own personal journey as a coach. So it's not only just the journey that you share with a client or in a facilitation space, but also as a coach, I grew leaps and bounds using Lumina over the last 3 years. And I'm going to share that today as we speak. But going forward, let's just, do a bit of an introduction here. I'm calling you from Kathmandu. I'm joining you from Kathmandu. It's beautiful weather here. In case you are fed up of smog or traffic or rain or whatever it is, just take a flight. You don't need a passport. Just need to get onto a plane and get here. It's fantastic. The mountains are calling you. All right. On that note, what draws us to coaching? Just your thoughts quickly in the chat box. One word, one sentence. What draws you to coaching? Why are you a coach? Ability to make people better, self-discovery, opportunity to transform lives, fantastic. The possibility to help others and help ourselves, fulfilling. I love those answers. And thank you for sharing so openly, as we would say in the coaching language. So don't catch me for that. Yes, I'm going to use all the coaching language I know. Thank you for sharing so openly. The part about coaching that draws us all, I think, is people, right? That's the common part here, right? People as us, people as people we want to impact, transforming life, fulfilling lives, impacting lives, pleasing, all of that. It's about people. And assessments or psychometric assessments is also about people. So the journey we are taking today is how do we bridge the gap between data and in the intuitive style that we bring in through our technical learning as coaches. That's really the idea of today's session. So again, what is rewarding about coaching? What is, the part that challenges us about coaching. So again, your thoughts in the chat box quickly. What is rewarding? What rewards you when you coach, and what challenges you when you coach? What are your roadblocks? To see transformation, that's rewarding. I like that. And challenges. What are your roadblocks? Reward is movement, change, transformation. Challenge is a lack of awareness, lack of willingness to change despite awareness. Fantastic. Challenge, self-work, understanding others. Transform the notion, is it, or seen in reward? Shalini, sorry.
The transformation is the reward. I got it wrong. Sorry.
No problem.
And the challenge is to be on the same plane.
All right, fantastic. Yes, exactly. The challenge is to be on the same plane. And, I think the challenge that I have is, and we are going to talk about it today to a certain extent, is the biases that we both come in, right? When the partnership in the coaching space starts, there's a bias that the client comes in with, and then there's a bias that the coach comes in with. Like it or not, it sits somewhere in our spaces. We may practice a lot of don't judge, frontal cortex, listening, judging, all of that. But somewhere a bias does come in, right? And how we internally as coaches have to remind ourselves, don't be biased, don't be judgmental, keep your values in place, the coaching ethics, and so on and so forth. Do you agree? Do you agree? Honestly, I'm sharing my honest, feeling. 13 years into coaching, 10,000 hours later, I still feel some thing on the side just pops up and says, is this person trying to do this? And then you're like, no, go sit down. You're not supposed to be thinking like that. Does it happen to you? Debashi says, challenge is willingness in the coachee to accept the reality, as in awareness and acceptance. Absolutely. Yeah, Nilofer, doesn't it? It happens. And it's so hard to consistently remind yourself, like, sit down. It's not your job right now. Think about it later. You've got the coaching veil on, you've got the coaching coat on, you've got to think like a coach. And I think, why am I saying this again and again? Because I think what Lumina does is, or what it did for me, I'm only sharing a personal story here, is that when I started to use a report and read a report before going into a coaching session, I was able to clear my head by saying, okay, I'm just trying to get to know the person, but I am going to wear a hat that engages the person to come out fully. What is that hat? And Neha is going to walk us through shortly on how to do speed reading, how to recognize a personality style, and which hat do I need to bring out of my closet in order to engage this person the most. And I think that's what has been my biggest learning experience using a psychometric alongside coaching. So personality and coaching and all the meaning markers, this is what we are talking about, right? How do we connect this bridge? What is it that we need to do? What is it that we need to understand? Why is it important in the first place? I mean, we all spoke about the fact that we are in coaching because we want to go out there and impact lives of people in some form or the other. Transformation, impact, happiness, greatness, whichever word that is. And what is exciting about, I think, combining multiple studies, right? Like if you actually Google models of coaching, there are, I think, about 18 or 19 that stand up like that. GROW model is the most frequently used by ICF and recommended, but there are many more out there. In the same sense, there are also many more psychometric evaluations. So why did Anjani choose this one? Or, there are people who chose this or that. What are these meaning markers? How do you connect personality to coaching? How do you actually enhance the experience of the client? And what does it do for you as a coach? These are the questions we're delving into with 3 personas, with the way our blind spots, pop out, one of them being biases, other being not knowing what to go and where to go next. And I want to share a quick example. I used to live in the UAE for almost 20 years. When I was learning driving, after driving in India for a while, I had to learn driving again in order to get the license. And if you're aware of UAE, you would know that people actually use license as a degree on their CVs. That's like almost an achievement because it's so hard to get one. And I remember when in my first class, no one had ever told me this in India, but in my first class, the instructor told me this: you first look at the rear view, then you look at the side view, then you look at your shoulder with your neck turned. That's called the blind spot. Neither of those mirrors catch the blind spot. You got to turn physically to look for blind spot. Come back, look at your rear view, and then change lanes or turn. Therefore, what a psychometric does is it helps us look for the blind spot. It points towards the blind spots. And hence, you're not really trying hard to look at any of the mirrors. You're simply turning your direction and trying to spot what is the unsaid in the coaching space. On that note, all yours, Neha. I'm going to stop sharing.
Wow, Anjani, I mean, I know a lot of your stories, but this one, I think you've shared for the first time. Thank you so much. And I think next time when I'm doing a one-to-one feedback, in order to explain what a blind spot is, I think I've got a simpler example today. A lot of people will be able to relate to it. So thank you again. I am just sharing my screen, and if one of you can let me know if it's visible. Yeah, I can see you, Anjani. Thank you. Thank you, Shalil. I can see you also. Thank you. Um, so I will now start introducing Lumina. Before that, just to set the primer right, and also Debashish had asked me a very relevant question on the chat box, which I was able to partially answer. Now, Lumina being a newer tool in the market, when I say newer tool, it's been 15 years old, and we launched it in India 5 years, exactly 5 years now. When I say newer tool, because I know some of the tools were born when I was born, some were born when my mother or my grandmother was born. So that's why relatively it's newer tool, which is why it's also digitally enabled. And towards the end of the session, we'll see how Lumina has used technology to its advantage, and how not just me as a coach, but also the participants or the coachees gets benefited from that. Now, there are some renowned tools like DISC, MBTI, Clifton's Strength Finder, and also Hogan. Now, I'm also a Hogan coach myself, so you may find me giving a lot of Hogan's example also. Now, Lumina has multi layers of information. It gives very simple information also, which I will start with something you can see on the screen, where you can directly map DISC. DISC. A lot of you would be familiar with the DISC model. And then it goes to, it opens another layer of your personality and gives you information which maps directly to MBTI. Now, the difference between the level of information you get in Lumina and comparison to the MBTI model is Lumina is not a type or a type indicator or a labeling model. Meaning, if it says that Neha is an introvert, it would not automatically imply that she's not an extrovert. I can very much have paradoxes. So that's another information that I wanted to share. And yes, as Shanti started this when she was introducing about today's journey, that it will be about three persona. And then I saw Anjani also, touched on those points of three persona, especially mentioning about the blind spots. So that's where Hogan gets mapped. The HPI, HDS, and MBPI of Hogan, the language in Lumina we have is called the three persona, which Anjani would be taking us through in the second half of it. So I hope that just answers, that brings a little familiarity to the tool. Now the one that you see on the screen here, we see 4 colors, and Lumina is based on the 4-color model: green, yellow, blue, and red. And I would just like to quickly do an exercise. Please use the chat box for this. When you think of these colors, what adjectives or what personality traits or what behavior traits, what behavior qualities that comes to your mind? So let's start with one color. Oh, yellow. So I'll just check the chat box. What adjectives, what images? Oh, I see a lot of Hogan reference here, definitely. Well, these are not the Hogan colors of yellow, red, and blue. Just generally, I see sunshine, happy, vibrant, bright, cheerful, outgoing, fun-loving, energetic, live, beginnings, exploring. Yeah, I see a lot of Hogan coaches we have, but I see a lot of Hogan references on the chat box. Yes. Friendly, happy, great. Oh, Debashish, you've also mentioned for blue, detail orientation and conscientious. Yes, thank you so much. I think a lot of people have got it right here. But yes, definitely just one disclaimer. No, here yellow does not mean HPI. HPI is the color of Hogan's everyday behavior. So these are certain images a lot of you have mentioned about happy, sunshine, and ideas and post-its and all. So people who are leading with the color yellow, what are certain personality traits do we see in them? Hope, creativity, innovative minds, big picture thinker, out of the box thinkers, people who have a good processing of their imaginations, source of creative ideas. So similarly, now in Lumina's language, people who are leading with the color yellow, so they are also referred as people who are visionaries, futuristic. Now, some attributes that these people show in their everyday behavior, some of the strengths that these people bring in are about their creative mindset. They are open to new ideas. They would like to keep exploring, and something which really drowns them if they have to get involved into routine work. And also some of the people who are leading with yellow, some of the things that are clearly the challenges with them is even if they have a lot of ideas uh, being processed in their mind, often they find it difficult to implement those or just find a practical, simple solutions. Now let's move to the next color, green. Again, same thing. What images, what behaviors, or what adjectives comes to your mind? Optimism. Okay, yes. Serene and calm, fresh. Devashish, people orientation. Data, nature. Absolutely, nature. And what nature does is nature nurtures. Nourishing, natural, first time. Yeah, Debashish, I can guess so. That's why I was thinking, wow, do you already know Lumina Spark? Because some of your words are actually bang on. That's what we use in Lumina Spark. But thank you so much for letting me know. I was just wondering, how does he know all that? Progressive growth. Yes, absolutely. And as a lot of you mentioned, that it is about nature and freshness. So these are some of the images that pops up when we think of the color green. And people who are leading with the color green are absolutely, as Debashish mentioned, it is about your people orientation. And those who lead with the people side, absolutely, it's about growth and caring for the other people. So these are the people leaders. And what are the attributes? Let's just see if you want to share something on the chat box, since we have seen how some of the attributes of people leading with yellow vision works. So what do you think? People who are leading with the color green, with their people orientation, what are some of the behavior attributes they show? Empathy, yes. Compassion. Empathy, compassion, emotions. Yes. Care. Development oriented. Yes. Empowering, affinity, caring. Okay, that makes it easier. Absolutely, they are about care and well-being of staff. Some people did mention about developing others, and also relationships. They thrive on not just creating but also maintaining their relationships. They'll be the proactive ones who will go that extra mile to make sure that the relationship doesn't get hampered. Now, even if they are the nicest people to deal with, they're very approachable, there are few things that they also will struggle. Like, I have heard a lot of coaches saying that personality is like a book of economics. There cannot be a happy ending. If you fix one thing, something else gets dropped off. So even if you are the nicest and the very people-oriented person, well, there are some cost that comes with that too. Number one, definitely the first one, which I myself also sometimes struggle with, is having those tough conversations, confronting poor performance, and challenging poor performance, or just to give a very straightforward feedback. I sometimes also fumble when I use the word feedback, because that's how my personality trait comes in. And also, when you are very kind and flexible, and when you find it difficult to hold other people accountable, then obviously sometimes you end up taking a lot of things on your own plate, and then your plate is overflowing. So that's some of the challenges that people with green, leading with green, face. Now the color red. So again, let's talk about few things. Yeah, Lakshmi also mentioned empowering. Thank you, Lakshmi. So color red, what are the images that pops up? Dominance, confidence, direct. Go-getters, yes. Energy, passion, aggression. Task orientation, closures, yes. My way or the highway. Okay, thank you, Venkatesh. Yes. Execution, direction. Okay, I think we have got it now. Great. So let's see what are the images we have it here. People did mention aggression, but I'm just wondering, nobody mentioned the other color. Red is also the color of love. I know it's Diwali time, Valentine's, we still have time. Otherwise, normally when we do it around that time, I've heard so many people saying, yeah, it is the color of love also. Heart is in red shape. But I think, yeah, it's the first time I haven't heard somebody saying it's also the color of love. But all the other personality traits and all the other adjectives that you have mentioned, absolutely. You'll see some of them here on my screen also. It is about passion. It is about aggression. And yes, if somebody has to give you a disclaimer of danger, you will find those images like stop or school ahead, those images also in red, because red just draws attention. Now, let's see. What are the personality traits? Stress givers. You should not have said that, Arvind. Okay, thank you. Let's see. What are the personality traits apart from stress givers? Do these people bring in? The strengths. Let's talk about the strengths. People leading with the color red. What do you think? What are the strengths that they bring in? Confidence, goal orientation, goal closure, strategy, finishers. Yes, finishers, driving results. Strategic, I'm not sure, Devashish. Maybe strategic would be more people who are leading with yellow. They're good with strategies and planning, but who will implement the plan and who will make sure the plan gets done and implemented? That would be the red. I hope that clarifies. Okay, I think we have got a lot of answers on the chat box already. And yes, it is about setting goals, not just for yourself, but also for others. I remember some people also mentioned about being people who are very directive and people who are very influencing. It is about result orientation. I think you've covered that all. Now, apart from just the stress part or the dominance part that we mentioned in the chat box, what are some of the things that people who are so goal focused and so commitment focused also struggle with? They can come across sometimes as intimidating. Their energy levels are so high, even if they don't intend to, they can be pushy, and especially for the people who have a little subdued approach to them, it can be even more. And also, intentionally or unintentionally, they can have, rather than cohesion, maybe some internal competition also into the team. Although I have noticed myself that sometimes when we have healthy competition in the team, the results are magical. But these are the some of the attributes, some of the traits that they can find themselves being challenged with. Now, the last color, blue. Let's see. Cool detail. Thinkers. Yes. Trustworthiness. Shripad, you mentioned trustworthiness. I assume you mean they are worth the trust, they are dependable.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. Yes. Thank you so much. Balanced and intuitive. Calm. Devashish says data. I see, Devashish, you have quite a lot of information on Lumina already. Wow. Being a distributor, I just love it. Detail orientation and stoic. Yes, please keep your answers flowing in while I move forward. You did mention, some of you mentioned calmness and steadiness. So some of the traits that you would see with people leading from the color blue, and as Shreepad also mentioned, trustworthiness, dependable. When they commit, you can rely on them. It's their reliability and their dependability that they really thrive on. I'm very lucky to have somebody in my team who is so dependable. Once a task has been given to him, I can close my eyes because I know whatever happens, the task will get done. Now, what are some of the, oops, sorry. I just did it. Now, some of the traits, some of the personality traits or some of the strengths that people leading with the color blue brings in, apart from being dependable, because we've discussed that. Compassion, Archana, I think I would more relate it to the people orientation. Handling pressure. I think a combination of blue and red would be good in handling pressure, yes. Steadiness. Networking. Wow, Venkatesh, if you can just unmute, I would be, it's interesting to know what makes you say networking, if you're okay sharing.
Networking, because they have to get things done. So they are the people who are good at coordinating with people, and they know which strengths to leverage when they're interacting with the people.
Cross-functional collaboration.
Yeah.
To get the work done. So
Right.
no, not like sociable people who are proactive networkers, but probably to get the work done, they'll be okay to collaborate cross-functional and identify strengths and see who can do what.
Absolutely right.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. Okay, thank you. And let's see, what are the strengths people, because their drive is delivery, the implementers. These are the one when people leading with vision, when they strategize and make plans and sometimes also create blueprints, then these are the people who will gather the necessary information. And as Venkatesh very nicely mentioned, these are the people who would know who to collaborate with, when to collaborate with, get the information, and make sure things gets implemented. These are the people who are your doers. Now, these are, and as a lot of you mentioned here in the chat box, these are also the people who are not just dependable, they are also very detail oriented. So overlooking details is something which you rarely find with them, because that's how their mind processes. Now, again, as these are some of the fabulous strengths to bring in, there are some challenges with people who lead from the delivery and the implementation part, because they want everything just so perfect and everything has to be done using the structure and the process. Sometimes others can find them being a little micromanagers, and they are the people who may not be very open for change. These are the people who would be, if things are working fine, why change it? And these are the people who, because they're very okay with their routine, in fact, having a routine, having a plan works very well for them, they might find themselves a little inflexible. Others may find them little inflexible sometimes. Well, by the way, I have somebody who's also one of our chartered accountants, who's very blue. So he's very driven by the laws and everything. Every time we ask him for some jugaad, he starts shivering. I mean, great. He is our chartered accountant. Thankfully, there's no scrutiny or a penalty which has hit Lumina yet. I'm just touching wood. But whenever I think of these, I think our CA comes to our mind. Thank God he's not an innovator. Okay. Now, as Anjani was mentioning earlier, as coaches, you are all people readers, I'm sure, with assessment or without an assessment. But if you have an assessment, any scientific assessment, I would say, it really helps you to validate what you are reading. And not just that, even when you share their report with others, it also helps them, helps you and your coachee to bridge the gap between some of the understanding, some of the challenges you guys mentioned when Anjani was asking what are your challenges you face as coach. And sometimes some people mention that some coaches do not agree to the blind spots. So some of the challenges Lumina Spark can take care of. So let's do a little more of an activity to understand how Lumina Spark scientifically validates your reading of the people as coaches. Oh, I see the chat box. Is there something I need to? Okay, Anjani, you're there. Fine, thank you. We'll be doing some quiz now. My understanding is all of you are familiar with Lumina's 4 colors. So let's see, if you have to allot one color to this gentleman, what do you think? What is his leading color out of the 4? I see blue flooding. Blue. I hope we are not copy pasting. Pink. Anjani, this was expected from you. Totally. By the way, guys, Anjani leads with yellow color. And now I should not have said that. People would have guessed it already. No, I see first red. Okay, anyone else? Well, my assumption is that all of you would be knowing who the gentleman is. Otherwise, just to refresh everyone's memory, this is Sherlock Holmes. I think a lot of people said blue for that. I see red. Okay, great. Let's move forward. And yes, being a detective, the leading color would be blue, as most of you said. Now, but I would want to hold for those who said red also. And I'll come to that later. Why am I not saying that, this person is blue, cannot be red? So I'll just hold on to that. Once we cover all the 4 colors, then I'll conclude on why some people would have thought that he could be red as well. Okay, let's do it for this gentleman. What do you think his driving color would be? Where's my chat box here? Ah, red. Is this because of the gun? Red. Preeti, did you say yes to the gun? Because I just see yes. Ah, okay. Go getter. Yellow and red. Danger, love, passion, bond. Okay, I think a lot of us have already guessed it right. Absolutely. Bond with red. And the lady here. I think we should get 100%. Yes. This one we have never got wrong. Green. Green? Okay. Anybody else who thinks any other color than green for Mother Teresa? Anyone? You can type in or just unmute and say it if you think green or maybe something else. Okay. Venkatesh says blue.
I
Shriram
think there's a
says yellow.
certain, I think there's a certain amount of red because she's also very passionate.
Also very passionate. Yes. Not just about caring people, but also did a lot of things at global level. So that makes you think that she can also be red. That's right, Shalil. Okay. Yes, so definitely green is her color. And like Shalil mentioned, and some people also, I think Venkatesh mentioned, there could be an essence of red and blue because it's not about, with her, it was not just about the caring or the compassion, but a lot of global level things that she did. Okay, and this gentleman. Just one disclaimer, we have never got this wrong also. Yeah. I mean, you can give color to his expression as well. Like you also managed to give it to the gun. Wow, Debashish, you say yellow. I would love to hear it. What makes you say yellow? Too many. Too many, very colorful. Red, red. Or Now that's the hint, Anjani. Yes. So some of you said yellow, some of you said red, and Shalil, you said orange. I think you guessed it. 100% marks to you for this because you guessed this right. Yellow and red. So very imaginative thinker, and yeah, red. I think we don't even have to give information on why I say red for him. Now before we close this, oh, we have one more. Sorry. Yes. What do you think this gentleman would be leading with? Blue, red, blue, yellow, yellow, blue. See a lot of blue coming in. Blue, green, creative plus taskmaster. Ah, okay. Red and blue more. Red, blue. I see a lot of combination now coming in. Earlier in the first 2 colors, I saw single responses. And now suddenly I see that you guys are able to tell us also the combination. Blue, yellow, red, blue. So I see blue is the common here, combined with other. Nobody said green, but you combined it with yellow and red. So yellow and blue. So a very creative thinker, but not just a creative thinker, also somebody who designed a fabulous product, or rather I would say a series of products using his imagination. Now, we talked about a combination, and before I get into this quiz, a lot of you have actually got it right because you gave a lot of combinations to others. Now, there could be a leading color for all of us, but we all have a combination of all four colors. I have seen profiles, although it's very rare, where people have high scores on all four colors. It is not very common, but yes, it is a possibility. I have also seen profiles wherein somebody has only one color in the high score, rest all are very low. So definitely then that person leads with one color only. Like, but in case of Donald Trump and also Steve Jobs, we saw there was a combination of two colors. These are the person, because these are the personality traits we have seen. By the way, uh, these were part of a little research that we did. These are not their real colors, but that was just a little quiz to help us all understand how does, people who lead with different colors, what are some of the traits, and how knowing some people, we can actually identify and read them without having their Lumina assessment or any assessment for that matter. Now, closing on the people reading part, this is a final activity that I would like to do. Now, we know the four colors and also what people lead with when they are leading with these colors. Now, some of the questions that I would like to throw in here. Number one, the office appearance. Let's do it this way. Let's take it color-wise. Let's start with the color green. What do you think? People who are leading with the color green, what would their office look like if you get into their cubicle or their cabin? What are the things that would make you guess maybe it's a green person? Open door. Yes, no door or open door. Family pictures. Warm. Warm and cozy. Okay. So visually, visually, what are the things? Like some people mentioned open doors or actually no doors. The moment you enter, pastel light shade. Ah, okay. Quotations pinned. Plants. So that's a very good guess. Thank you, Lakshmi. Plants, yes. Maybe you can think of somebody who, you think is leading with green, or if you are yourself not there. Sweets. Yes, sweets or candies to offer. Absolutely. Thank you. So how do you think they run their meetings? People with green. How do you think? What's the first thing you hear from them when you enter their meeting?
What do you think of the problem that we have on hand? I want to hear from you.
I want to hear from you first before telling myself. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I think that was Shalini. How is your family? Yes, how are you? How is your family? Totally. How was your weekend? And you know what? When they ask these, they actually are hearing. They're actually listening. They're actually interested to know how are you? How's your family? How was your weekend? They're not just saying it because, the protocol says you have to ask people, greet them. They're literally interested. They will wait for people to join in. Oh, yes. Yes. I think, Shanti, you have a lot of green color because you did wait about 5-6 minutes after the session started for people to join in. Totally. Yes. Okay. Now the final question, how they communicate or what do they want to hear? Or if I have to put it in other ways, if you have to sell them an idea or if you have to influence them, people who are leading with green, what are the things that you think you would be saying to them? What would they want to hear? What's in it for others? Bang on. Yes. Safe and secure. Nas, I think you mean choice of words, safe and secure. Transparent, benefit everyone. Yes.
Trust is what.
Sorry, I think you said something, Nas.
I said it's more about trust, safe and secure, and I said that.
Okay, the trust part. Absolutely, yes. That's very important for people leading with relationships. Yes. Being transparent. Yes. Thank you so much. Let's talk about the color yellow. What do you think? How would they run meeting? Or let me ask a very straightforward question. What time will their meeting start? People leading with yellow. What time their meeting will start? So 10 a.m. When the calendar says 9, time. Yes, Lakshmi, thank you. Absolutely. What is time? Will they care about the agenda of the meeting? Open-ended. Yes, open-ended time. No start time, no end time. No agenda is the best agenda. Yes. And if you have to influence them, what are the choice of words you will have? Will you go with a graph or data? If you have to sell them an idea. This is new. Yes, you immediately have their attention. Thank you so much for sharing that. Yeah, no graphs, but pictures. Yes, visuals. Yeah, I think we've got it. Let's talk about red. What people leading with red? What do you think how their offices would look like? Sorry. Jazzy, bright. Structured, orderly, Nas. I'm not sure if that would be red, but if red also has a combination of blue, definitely yes. Everything will be at its place and there's a place for everything. Whiteboards, to-dos, long-term. Yes, absolutely, Shadi. Plans and to-dos. Let us get to the core. Yeah, no wastage of time. Awards. Yep, absolutely. Awards, accomplishments, pictures with prominent personalities. Because they lead with influence. That would be blues. Pick and span, no papers. Yeah, I think Shripat got it. Goals, targets, numbers, yes. Scribbled whiteboards. Bias for action. Action, definitely yes. I'm not sure about the bias part though, but definitely action, yes. And finally, the color blue. And Shripad, yes, you can definitely answer first. I think you've got it all. Color blue. Let's see what their offices look like. I think we've partially answered that. Anything if you have punctual, yes, that's definitely how their meetings would be. Agenda, structured. Agenda will have a start time and after the meeting, what do you think? After the meeting is over, what's the first email you will be getting from them? MOM, absolutely. Yes, thank you, Archana. Diagrams and charts. Lot of information. spick and span, spotless, uncluttered, on time, MOM actions. I think Shripad, you've just shared one of your personality profiles. A place for everything, everything in its place. Yes. Yeah. Analytical reports. Great. And final question. If you have to influence people who are leading with blue, if you have to sell them an idea, how would you begin? Facts, details, data, rationale, statistics, outcomes, to the point. Oh, yes, to the point. Logical flow, I like it. Yes, logics, but also with the flow. They should be able to process it in their head. Setting the context. Yes, thank you, Anjani. Very important. Rather, you would want to send them an email before bumping into them. Thank you. Made with the state-of-the-art technology. Yeah, I sometimes really fail to deal with some of my Luco colleagues. Okay, great. I think we've got it all. See, without having the personality portraits for any of the personalities that we were seeing earlier, and now just imagining in our head, and I'm sure while you were answering those, either these are some of the your colors you were answering for, definitely Shripad was, or some of the people you had in your mind who would be leading with these colors and what you have seen in their offices or when you meet them. So that's exactly what we were talking about, how reading people, when you have people's personality data, kind of also validates. And with this, I would like to just stop share and invite Anjani. And before I do that, if there is any burning question that you have, obviously we will have time for Q&A towards the end. But if there is something that's really, thumping and you would like to ask, please feel free to unmute and ask. I know it's 7:30 in the evening. Okay, great. Then Anjali, it's all yours. And thank you everyone for your participation.
Thank you, Neha. Before I share the screen, I think we as coaches love reflecting. So the fact that you were encouraging us through the chat is fantastic and very encouraging. Thank you for that. A question before we actually go into a preview that Neha showed us about the biases. Now that we know how to speed read people, which we already know, I mean, I'm assuming most of us here in this room know that. It's not something new, but we are now tagging it to a color. Assuming that you bring in this thought process of 4 colors, I'm going to tag this person in this conversation to know whether I need to wear myself an opposite hat or the same hat, same color hat. How are you going to make sure that you're not bringing in any bias? Because you're color coding the person, right? Already. So here's a report, or not even. You just have the speed technology in your head. How are you going to keep the bias away? And please unmute and share. It's all right.
Can I?
By focusing on the strengths that each of these personalities bring to the table. Yeah,
that's a great point, Lakshmi. I'm going to add a little bit of a curveball to that. Before you get into the meeting, how are you going to make sure that the bias doesn't creep in? You've got the report this time. By staying open for further learning. Yes, Debashish.
Anjani, usually with this type of reports and assessments, you don't come to a conclusion, but you try to validate, and hence your language probably becomes very important, the language that you use.
Right.
To say, for example, you can say, you appear to, or you seem to behave or conduct in this manner, and then you have a discussion rather than saying you are so and so, or you are so and so. And I think the language matters a lot, so that the person doesn't become defensive. Or it's, since you are drawing from the report, it's report that the person has answered the assessment. So say the assessment reflects something like this.
Great point. And what Lakshmi says is we try to box them in a category. Yeah, Lakshmi.
So by see, as a leader, one of the most important things is to see the strengths and see where we can use this kind of a personality or this kind of reporting. And I think that's what we need to focus on.
Fair point. Absolutely fair point. I think the other part that I would like to sort of, do the outside in thinking or inside out thinking, whichever way you'd like to direct it into. But I think what is interesting to also know is that which hat do I need to pick when I get into a conversation, right? So let's get some ground rules in place. None of us are of one archetype. We all have all 4 archetypes, all 4 colors. What we call in insights energies, we call in Lumina archetypes. We have all 4 energies or archetypes. We are cool blue at the same time. We are sunshine yellow at the same time. We are fiery red. And I'm using insights language for the moment because it's, it's relatable for some of us. But on the other hand, we are calm. At the same time, we are excitable. At the same time, we are inspirational in our own space. So we actually kind of juggle all 4 archetypes. That's the first thing to kind of, get the ground rules going. The second part is that in different spaces in our lives, and we're going to talk about this now in the next half an hour or so, is how these play up. Which of these are naturally coming to us? And I'm going to share a personal example in a minute. Which of these we build on? And which of these we are showcasing because we are required to showcase, right? So I'm going to give you my example. I'm a child of a yellow and a red set of parents. My mom's completely red, go-getter. She doesn't think about the journey. She needs to get to the goal, start to the end. Whether it's knitting a sweater, eating, teaching, working, driving, it doesn't matter. Start to the end. Till she gets to the end, she's not satisfied. My father, on the other hand, was extremely yellow. Get the people going. Let's have a party. People loved him around. He was the sunshine of any group. So therefore, I'm a combination of red and yellow. Now, is it genetic almost? No. But I am aping my parents' behaviors because that's what works for them. So it comes to me naturally. Does it mean I am not analytical at all? Oh, I am. My bosses hate me for being analytical sometimes. Am I not empathetic? Of course I am, because I'm an HR person. I got to be empathetic. So here's what happened. I got into an industry which required for me to be very go-getter. Yellow needed to come out at the same time. So my yellow just took off and I excelled fantastically. Then I changed my industries. I changed my careers. I had a complete transformation. I got into HR and I realized I needed to be go-getter. So I got red. And I got told by my bosses, you're leaving ashes behind because you're just going. You got to carry people. You're in HR. That's when I realized, oh, my natural self is not working anymore. I need to up something in myself. Now, in the paradox of the Carl Jung or Big Five, you see the cross, right? And you see green is opposite to almost red and yellow. Blue is opposite to red, yellow and green is opposite to red, in a manner of speaking. We will operate in a mandala, the colors overlap. But in a manner of study, this is how it sits. Which means if I'm very empathetic, I may not be a go-getter. But if I'm extremely go-getter, I might leave ashes behind and burn tons of bridges because I will not understand people. Now, why are we talking about all of this? Because what happens is, as you get exposed in your life, your archetypes fluctuate. For example, 3 years ago, when I took my insights, let's even do that. 15 years ago, 2005, 18 years ago, when I took my insights for the first time and I got facilitated for it, certified for it, I was playing on green because I was an HR person, hardcore human resources person. Green was my highest. Then I was in a situation during COVID where I needed to bring things together because things had collapsed in our family. Losses after losses. Needed to bring everything together, needed to fix it. Red took off. Now I'm in the space of creativity. Yellow took off. Does it mean that I am indecisive? Absolutely not. It simply means that I am underplaying and overplaying my energies, stroke archetypes, when I need them to. And hence, as coaches, that's the side we wear, or that's the hat we wear when we go into a conversation with people. On that note, I'm going to share my screen. Any thoughts coming to your mind before we start? Anything that you'd like to share that, that came to your mind?
This is very similar to strengths deployment in inventory.
In a manner of speaking, yes. In a manner of speaking, no. In the end, let's go to the grassroots. There are 2 studies that, that eventually form the basis of every single psychometric, whether we go through Bellman, which is organizational, or Gallup, or Insights. I have been certified in 7. And ultimately, we talk of Carl Jung and we talk of Big 5.
Yeah.
The roundabout manner, right? So yes, you can draw multiple links to each of them. The advantage that I felt Lumina had, and there are multiple, but the reason why I go for 3 is because the first one is that it combines both the studies to the maximum level that it can. The second thing is that it is the newest kid on the block. So it's AI based, it's intuitive, it's talking the language of the people who are getting assessed now. And third, and the most important thing is, actually 4 now, one more thing comes to my mind. The third thing is there are no add-ons. Like, I'm not going to take any names of any other assessments, but there are assessments where there are add-ons. A study was done, then there was an add-on done later on, then there was an add-on done later on. What that did was, sometimes these assessments don't talk to each other, right? And the fourth, for me, the most important thing as an HR person, and after having used multiple assessments, the one thing that I felt stood out for me in Lumina was the language. It is so simple that when you leave the report with the client and walk away, there is nothing left for interpretation. It is simple as that. My experience with a few other assessments, and some of the top ones, is that some language can be a little bit misleading.
Yeah.
And some language can be too intellectual for the non-English speakers. And I worked with 70 I led a team of 70 nationalities at one time in my space of my career. There was no way I could leave reports like that with people. We would actually call them in, we would decipher the reports, and then we would take them back. What a terrible thing that is. It is your personality we're discussing, we're taking the report back, because that time the feedback was, if you leave it, they're going to come back with bias, with an assumption. That's correct, Lakshmi. There is no right or wrong color. You're absolutely right. It's just recognizing those traits.
Anjali, I had a question. Sorry.
Yes, Debashish.
Coming from, you said that it's AI based. Now, can you give a reference of what is the AI element?
So there is a tiny AI element at the minute, which is Digital Spark. This comes with the Lumina Spark. You can completely track the client journey online. Actually, if you see in my virtual background, and Neha will talk about it towards the end in more detail, you also see the app, which is where you can actually map teams and individuals in a very cool manner. But also you can do Digital Spark, which is a whole journey that you can, so competencies, qualities, traits, etc., all put together can be mapped with actionables online. So you can actually go into an organization, do a whole coaching journey for a bunch of 40, 50, 60 individuals, and then hand over that journey to be followed by the HR or whoever is the stakeholder, by simply giving them every individual an access to Digital Spark, and then take it on from there. It's a fantastic tool, and so much innovation in it, and they're building on it. They're building on further to get more detail in it, to incorporate more stuff in it. So it's a pretty cool app, actually. All right. So, and I'm going to leave more of that content space for Neha to talk about towards the end of the session, but I'm going to quickly walk you through the 3 personas, the very reason why we are in this conversation today, right? And what are these unconscious biases or blind spots that we are trying to overcome by so? So if you really look at my example, what I'm really doing is I'm juggling different archetypes. When I'm juggling those archetypes, I'm bringing in different conversations in different spaces. So to correct Neha, I'm actually a red-yellow. I'm not a yellow. I don't lead with yellow. I lead with red. But I have a massive paradox, almost the same level of green in some spaces. So I struggle with emotionally stretched energies when it's not working for me. And I struggle with completely go and get there. Task given to me will be done, hail or high water. Now that's me. How do I judge or find, judge is the wrong word in coaching space, but how do I find this in my client? How do I find this in my own self? Because the report will give you sentences. You may be doing this, just like Debashi said, you appear to be doing this. There is a possibility this is happening. So those are recognition points. I often pick up those sentences and ask relative questions to clients in conversations. The other part, of course, is what am I known for, right? So here's what am I known for? Neha thinks I'm yellow, but I actually lead from red. There you go. Why? Because I have a fantastic demonstration style. You put me in a group of people, I demonstrate. After the demonstration is over, I'm expressionless. Can't have a conversation, don't know what to say. So that's my reputation. So therefore, when a client comes into a conversation, when you go into a conversation, what is your reputation as a coach? Well, someone said he or she is a business coach. She's got great numbers behind her. She's very organized. She's very structured. I link with this. Somebody else said she's a business coach or he's a business coach. You know, he makes you feel so comfortable when you go into the conversation. You feel engaged. You feel involved. You feel you belong. That partnership is meant for you. Leading with greed. Somebody says, you know, he or she is they are such a wonderful coach. When you need to get your visibility sorted and that part where people notice you, this is the coach to talk to. So multiple reputations, you know, move forward. And therefore, that's where an assessment helps bridging this reputation. Now, one thing, like Debashi said, and most of us believe in, I'm pretty sure, and Lakshmi brought it out in bits and pieces as well, is that we have to be very careful that we don't box people when we go into conversations. It's a bridging app. It's not a decision-making app. And this goes back to when I was using an assessment personally in recruitment. Very clearly, we had decided as an organization, we want to use it only to see whether there's a team fit. And that's it. It's not going to be a make or break for us, right? So personality styles, you know, are, just give me a second. I'm going to move some smaller windows that are on my, right. So the personalities and styles and the color primer that Neha spoke about, I'm not going to spend too much time here. You already know it. So a simple understanding of the words that we've just spoken about, reliant and caring, that's what green is. But like I spoke about my paradox, feeling emotionally stretched. So what happens when my green is overused? I withdraw. And I get feedback of silence is violence. I'm like, what? Because I became passive. I'm not making this up. Believe you me, I'm not making this up. This is what I've been told. Silence is violence. I'm like, what? So this is a great conversation to have again with the client, right? Where you say, okay, so I remember a question. I was in a coaching session with EMCC and a very senior coach, and I'm sure some of you have heard his name. I won't take it, but he and I were in a breakout room. And the question was asked, and he did not see my profile at all. And the question he asked was, okay, so what is it? And we were to share a quick 2-minute coaching question, right? A coaching experience. So he was to say, okay, so what is it that you care about the most? So at that time, I was in the phase of bringing the family together after the collapse. I said, well, everyone in the family be safe and together. So the question he asked me following that was, are you so caring that you make everyone else's problem your own? Now, it's a closed question. As a coach, you're going to be like, it's a closed question. It's a closed question. But as a reflection, it's asking you to go deeper and say, are you being too caring? Are you overusing your strength? Or if I'd said I clam up when I feel hurt, are you being too passive? So it's telling you the unheard, right? In our coaching space, what do? We try to extract what is not being said as well, right? That's level listening level 3 and 4, exactly what this is trying to tell us. Let's take another one. Creative, impulsive, but excitable. I have an idea, I have an idea, I have an idea. And the ideas just keep popping. And they just keep popping, right? So it's endless set of ideas. And nothing gets done. So the question to ask is, how many ideas are you throwing out there, right? The next one, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. You already speed read. So decisive, aggressive, controlling. I remember I had a client who said, I like to control how my mother feels. I like to control my niece who is 1 year old and she doesn't know how to drink water. I like to control my sister who's, going through a separation. I like to control my life. And the word control was enough to tell me that there's extensive use of the red trait. So as a coach, you brought your learning of psychometric. There was no need for a report. It was enough to know that there's an overextension of decisive aggressive style. And finally, structured, and cautious, but also bureaucratic. Analysis, paralysis, more or less like that, right? So I think what we're trying to say here is that as a coach, I may be overextending in some ways. As a client, I may have an overextension that is unsaid. It's the blind spot. And that's the blind spot that you're looking for when you look at the 3 personas. Let's understand it a little bit more. So in the reputation space, these are the questions that, and if you would like to answer any of them, I wanted to move a little bit faster, and that's fine. We have about 30 odd minutes, but I wanted to give some time for you to have, question answers as well in the end. So if you would like to pick any question, anyone, and please feel free to, pick a question and we can discuss it. So, so for example, cluster A, who's, coming with the trait of green. If you were to make these into open-ended questions as coaches, how do you prioritize others over you? But how often do you prioritize others over you? Very typical. Let's look at, cluster B. It's question 2 I'm reading. Do you have a lot of creative ideas, or how do you bring creativity to work? And so on, right? So you're actually checking on the reputation of the client, because what are you doing? You're trying to get into the client's space, into the, I don't know if the right word is head, but really in that space to understand, how is the client showing up at work every single day? This is everyday behavior. Then there is the behavior that's hidden, that the client is trying to tone down, like Anjani was in different spaces, right? And then there is the behavior which is natural. Let's look at cluster C, which is the last question. When challenged, do you take logical and objective approach? How do you feel when you are challenged? It's a great question to ask from a client to know which trait the client is playing from. So all I'm trying to say in all of this is you're trying to ask these questions to find the unsaid, the blind spots, right? So again, you're trying to go into the combinations. What's the first? What's the second? Which trait is showing up first? And words like, I like to spend some time doing my research before I get to my goal, is an indication of a blue-red. I like to involve people and get their ideas and then be creative, is an indication of green-yellow. So it's really using those understandings that Neha has taken you through in order for you to create a coaching conversation. So mapping these personalities and revealing their preferences and biases is what we're talking about, and how these play out. Now, before I actually go into further more detail, any questions so far? Any thoughts coming to your mind that you'd like to share? I don't want it to be a single way conversation, so please feel free to share your thoughts. Okay, I'm guessing there's silence, reflection is happening, so I'm going to leave that and move on to the part which Lumina very interestingly measures. And there are other psychometrics that also are delving into it or have delved into it. So I'm not going to take it away from them. But I like it the way they do it in Lumina. What they do is they measure 3 parts of your personality. The one that the person you are. Who are you? The being inside you. And the standing joke is the person you're in the bathroom, right? By yourself. Then the person who you show up as to everyone around you. And then the person you become when you're stressed. So being, showing up, and becoming are the 3 sides of our personalities, right? Now, what does this happen? So my natural traits are red and yellow. I play between red and yellow. Now, if I'm given a 60-page data report, that needs to be submitted by tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. just now. What's going to happen to me? I'm going to get into stress space. I will snap. I'll be angry. I'll get to my goal because task given to me needs to be done. Period. Hell or high water. However, I don't know how to do it. It's too much for me. It's too much data. So there is a stress side that's coming out in me, right? So therefore, a different person comes out. I'm snappy. I'm time issues. I don't like it. The whole story of, oh my God, I might not be able to meet my deadline, the goal orientation, all of that is going out of the window. And my friendliness is becoming my aggression. I'm becoming excitable. So therefore, same thing in the 3 personas. In the report, very interestingly, the 3 persona is also splashed in the mandala splash. And it shows you very nicely exactly which trait you're using at what, percentile in your behavior setup after you ask the questions. So just a question for you, and again, chat box or unmute. How do you as a coach, leader, individual lead? Since you've done all the 4 colors quickly, don't want to lose on time. So if you could just step in and share your style of leading. Yellow, green. So yellow, green would be people and a vision and people, green, yellow. And that's interesting that we have a room full of greens and yellows. Did you just notice that? What an interesting trend. Does it mean that you have to be it organically drives you to be in the space you are in right now, being a green and yellow? It's a question to ask. I don't know, but pretty interesting. Blue, Vikram is leading from blue, right? Interesting. So this means that you're either leading with achievement and influence, relationship and connection, implementation, blue, green being IT, it goes. Yeah, absolutely, Shripad. Idea and creativity. Now, are we saying that one is better than the other? Absolutely not. Are we saying there can be 3 in a combination? Absolutely possible. Are there people out there who use all 4 on a high? Absolutely. Are there people who use 2 opposite sides? Absolutely. Are there people who lean on one side? Absolutely. There are all kinds of combinations. Arvind says red to yellow, right? So interesting question for people who are, showcasing or through drive. If I had to ask you a question, what happens when your client does not do the action that had been agreed in the previous coaching session? What's going on inside of you? Moment, like, oh, come on. Moment. Well, you may not showcase it, but if you're a red, achievement influences your top line. What happens when the client shows up without doing what was expected or agreed on in the coaching space or leadership space? Impatience. Yeah, you're right? I completely connect with that. And then I have to ground myself and do a PQ exercise internally. High BP. I agree. Yeah, absolutely. Green. All right, Arvind. So again, relationship and connection. So when a client walks into a conversation and says, I met so-and-so, and I know so-and-so, and I know so-and-so, and I know so-and-so, and I know so-and-so, and 45 minutes later, and I know so-and-so. So how do you change that? So you wear a red hat at that time, your red hat, and say, okay, I get, half the world, but how do we get to where we need to get to? So now we're doing a different paradox here, right? So all of this is all about coaching language and how are you playing it up? Doing speed reading, understanding what are the hidden blind spots, and wearing the hat that you need to as a coach wear in order for you to get there. Ultimately make the impact that you spoke about at the beginning of the session, the transformation, right? So when frustrated, and we just spoke about it, how do you overextend? Frustration, impatient, high BP, win at all costs. How do you control yourself as a coach? Which color needs to play up when you're like feeling frustrated with a client, or as a leader, or as a person, people around you in your relationships? If you're playing up with green, you're feeling emotionally stretched. I spoke about myself. If you're playing up with blue, your internal self is playing up with blue, you're feeling rigid and paralyzed. And if you're playing up with yellow, you're unfocused. I had a boss who had a room that was size of a bedroom, 10 by 11. That was his office with a table. And whenever we entered his table, we had to play hopscotch because there were books and papers and everything on the floor, organized or disorganized structure, played from yellow every single time. Now, you know why I had to play up from red? Because I just couldn't get to what I needed him to do. So again, which style you're bringing in forward and which style you are not. Right, Lakshmi says it's better that we remove the boxes from our own self. Absolutely where I wanted to get to. Lakshmi, you said it before I did. Which hat we wear instead of which boxes we remove. The conversation should drive our color. Brilliant. And therefore, as a leader of any business or even leading self, right? You keep juggling with different hats. Which one will come out? So in the 3 personalities that we talk about, and I'm having brain fog. Neha, what's the first one? I'm having a brain fog for the second. Sorry.
We can start with underlying, yes.
Underlying, thank you. So underlying is the first one, which is you in the bathroom. Every day is who you show up as. And overstretched, or, the person you are when you are in the stress space. Overextended. It is important that you recognize this in a conversation, right? And when you recognize this in a conversation, you are making it very easy for the client in front of you or the person in front of you to understand. And it's the overextensions that you're reading, which are the blind spots. Now, in the report itself, and Neha will let you know how that will happen. But in the report itself, there's actually a page, my favorite page, honestly, which showcases how these show up, right? So I'm going to just move from here because we've spoken about this in detail. But these are the questions that come up in terms of the color-coded conversations that you have. I think enough done, enough said. So the part that we're talking about now is the overextensions, right? And how they show up. So again, an example, my overextension in my underlying space, which nobody knows, I'm very competitive, extremely. I scored a 99 percentile in the measure of Lumina. But in the last 4 years, lessons have taught me that I cannot play with in the competitive space. So in my everyday, I'm showing up as 23 percentile. So can you see the difference? It means that my competitive style is actually my strength, but I'm underplaying it. Now, this is a hidden question from your client and saying, imagine if someone comes to you and says, I am very happy for my friends move to the United States at a senior position. I'm like so happy. I am happy. Like I really am happy. Like I'm not jealous at all. I'm very happy. What are you seeing? Are you seeing a green? Are you seeing a green? Deep red. You're seeing competitive. The person inside is, So that is what 3 personas does for you. When you see that, you get fantastic questions to ask from, all right, so I understand that you're very happy for your friend. What would you like to do for them? How would you show this happiness? What makes you say that you're very happy so many times. And there are a ton of questions that can come out of this, right? So 3 persona scores are simple. Underlying scores are your drivers. They are your values. This is what you're made of. I'm made of red and yellow. Somebody's made of a different combination, orange, purple, all those shades of the mandala. Every day is who you are being today. And overextended is who you're being when you're being reactive, not responsive. So simple. Underlying is who I want to be, my being. Every day is who I'm showing up as, and what I do for my living, how I show up. And overextended is how I react or respond to stresses. Thoughts? Nothing new, right? Is there anything new in this for you as people in this group, in this fantastic group of, coaches, leaders? Anything that you think is new in this conversation? I'm going to change the question. If in the last an hour and a half, if there's one take back that you had from this conversation, what would it be for you? Simplified. Right. Thank you, Lakshmi. Yes, I mean, that's what Neha was trying to do there. She was comparing it to the Hogan personality, but it's simpler. There are no abbreviations. It's just simpler. Thank you, Venkatesh. Self-awareness. Yeah.
Yeah, Anjani, if I draw, I have not gone through, I have actually very recently taken Lumina Spark, but I have not gone through my report yet. So this is a big eye-opener. As far as Hogan is concerned, you were saying in the beginning that some of the terminologies there are, if I may use the term, misleading. They mean something in English, but they actually mean something in actual. And hence, what you were saying is you can't leave the report with the client. It becomes misleading unless, because we ourselves get confused. We have to look at the chart multiple times to understand, oh, this means this.
Yes, and if it's with a non-English speaker or somebody whose first language is not English, I tell you, it's disastrous. I remember an example I'd like to share with everyone. The report somewhere said depressed. It was actually, I can't remember the word, but it meant in English dictionary, Oxford dictionary, it meant depressed. And when that report was done, and I was doing actually I was consulting some organization for their assessments, and every single client, 160 of them, came back and said, I'm not depressed. And I said, well, this is, it's got a completely different meaning. See page XYZ for the meaning. And they said, no, I don't want to go to page XYZ. I Googled it on Oxford Dictionary website. 6 of them were from Romania. 3 of them were from Scandinavia. 5 of them were from India. Every single one of them came and said, I'm not depressed. So I think you're right. The language is what matters. I'm going to read the comments in now. A great lens for us to comprehend how we're showing up. Absolutely. Lakshmi says there is no dark side like Hogan. Yeah, there is an overextension. There is no dark side, which is scary, right? If I was to, I remember doing my Hogan feedback like donkeys of years back with 2 different facilitators. First one started, did half my report, and then there was an emergency. He had to drop off. And then the second one came and he was doing my feedback, and it was chalk and cheese different because the interpretation of the report is so different. Not to undermine the study that Hogan has gone through. We're not saying that. We're saying in today's world with 7-second reels or 8-second reels and attention spans and everybody tagging everything and, people coming in with no experience trying to tell you what is ADHD and what is this and what is that and what is what not. We need things that are simplified so people don't go back with assumptions. It can be scary. All right. So yes, particularly with Hogan subscales, absolutely. Taking away, be aware of our biases, using tool to help to see where you're leading from, and better quality of coaching questions. Absolutely. Oh wow, I didn't realize you had delivered 100+ Hogan feedbacks. Wow, that's amazing. There is no binary color, but different colors for different situations. Absolutely. So one which hat you're wearing and one which hat the person in front of you is wearing. And how do you draw that bridge? That's exactly what this does. And I tell you, I use it all the time, and I don't recollect now, 3 years later, I don't know how many, but I don't recollect ever getting it wrong. Even if you have not done Lumina certification, I mean, if you've done it, spot on, because the report gives you prompts, right? Your communication style, your leadership style, how can you temper a certain color? There are questions which clients come back with, which are like, I want to be seen as more influential in my role. An executive coaching session often has this. How can I be seen more influential? I've always been the number 2. Now I'm going into number 1 position in a CXO level. How can I be seen as influential? How do you temper your red up? And those are the conversations that this report gets for you. So we've talked about this identity, reputation, and blind spots. And that's the best part, when you know that you are extending in a certain way. So my competitive side comes up in a big way when I'm overextended, actually. It does. I want to get there. I want to get it done. And I'm not being competitive with anybody, but just myself. That's it. I want to be better than myself from last time, which people don't understand. And hence I leave ashes. You see? Interesting, no? I'm actually literally opened my personality out to you. Please don't judge me. I'm a nice person. All right. Towards the end, as we are coming in here, last few minutes before I hand over the baton back to Neha, typically this would be a good breakout room conversation, but we're going to just have it here. Setting up a coaching contract, depending on which hat your client is wearing, here are the questions you could start with. Right? This could become an absolutely brilliant conversation starter. And create your own set of questions in the yellow space, in the blue space, in the green space. So I remember when I started my organization a few years back, the one thing I struggle with, I may be playing from yellow, but I do terribly in selling. I clam up. I don't do very well with closing sales. So when this came up in front of me, it gave me tools for figuring out, okay, I may not know the client, so I'm going to spend the first 5 minutes only listening and catching the keywords. I feel, I think, I control, I have a lot of energy, I lack focus, I want to be seen as, my visibility, all those words indicate which color the client is playing from. And then I would propose a question. And suddenly, oh my goodness, moment has happened of striking the balance, right? All right. So, I mean, this is one, but you can create a series of coaching questions, really speaking. My screen has got stuck. Am I audible?
Yes, Anjali, and we can see this in the coaching contract screen.
Yeah, but I'm trying to move it to the next page. Oh, now it's moving. All right.
It's moved now.
So this is it. So effectively, a psychometric evaluation can accelerate your journey. It's not to say that it's a make or break. It is to say, if you have data to support what you're thinking, it just makes the conversation more impactful. And the impact that we are all out there to make happens when we are able to get the data backing our intuition, our conversation. There's no judgment in this. It's simply data backing our conversation. I'm going to stop sharing on that note. Any thoughts before Neha winds up the session in the last 10 minutes and share some interesting tools that you could, in the sense that you could, if you have Lumina, you could use. Any last minute thoughts? I'm going to stop talking now. All right, Neha, all yours. I think everyone's in the reflective space right now, and it's also close to dinner time. So I don't know if it's the energy with a lot of greens, energy going down, or reflection happening.
Or maybe with
Anjani?
blues, where their clock says it's 8:15 and they are 15 minutes late for the dinner already.
That's
Because I think
possible, but lots of people showed up as yellow and green. So I'm thinking it's the wiper between reflection and being nice and don't say anything to Anjani and all of that. All right. So Neha, all yours quickly before we run out
yeah,
of time.
absolutely. So we will talk about the tech-enabled part and the AI part that Anjani was referring to. Now, Lumina is also digitally enabled in multiple ways. Number one, and I would say this has been our USPs since we launched Lumina. Now, every Lumina report, for those of you who have already taken the assessment, there's a QR code at the end of your report, which is page 41. There's a QR code. And so people can use the Lumina Splash app even if you don't have the report. We use it a lot for our BD purposes so that the client just gets a taster for it. Now, when you download the app, Lumina Splash, those of you want, you can do it now or after the session. Lumina Splash, 2 words, SPLASH. Now, when you download the app, it asks you, do you have a splash? Now, if you have already taken the assessment, you say yes, and then you go to your QR code, scan the QR code, and your Lumina report comes to your screen like this, the one that you see here. And when we do it for BD purposes, now there the client has not taken the Lumina Spark report yet. Then in that case, when it says, do you have a splash? You say no. Then it gives you a sample questions. I think it's 19 or 20 questions that you get in comparison to the whole set of questions, which is 144 in Lumina. It gives you about 20 questions. You answer that, and it gives you just a taster and the look and feel of how a Lumina report looks like, so that the client can actually see without even paying for it, how would a report like Lumina, a colorful and a comprehensive one, would look like. So the only difference is obviously that's not accurate because you have not taken the full assessment. Now, what I'll do is I will rather show it on my screen with my app. I hope it's visible. Anjani, I can see yours also. Anjani is proudly showing her paradoxes. So this is how the app works. I hope you can see Anjani's app and my app here. I will just, yeah, now it's, I think, visible. Now, these are all the 8 aspects. When you click on any of the arm, it gives you what your score is and information on what does it mean. It's a swirl. You can just keep scrolling. It gives you information on all your 8 aspects. Now, Anjali was talking about 3 persona. There's a bottom right, there is a plus sign. When you click on the 3 persona, underline, everyday, and overextended, you can see the splash moving because my scores on underlying, everyday, and overextensions are different. Now, the hero feature of this app is the compare feature. Top right, there is a compare feature. Now, Anjani and I work together. So I can scan Anjani's QR code on top of my QR code, and then it will show me how Anjani and Neha on underlying, how their motivations and preferences are aligned. Every day it will show how Anjani and Neha, being different personalities, can complement for each other. Like Shripad was mentioning in the chat, and I had answered him there. And also overextensions. What are the areas of conflict between Neha and Anjani? So these are some of the features that Lumina Splash app has. We would anyway be sending you more information on Lumina Splash app. Now, the other tech-enabled part that I would like to talk about, I hope my screen is visible again. Thank you. Now, this is, again, the compare feature that I was showing on my phone. Now, this is something which Anjani was talking about, the AI question that was asked to her on the digital course. So we've seen Lumina Splash app. This can be available even if you have not taken the assessment. the taster of it. Now, second one is digital coach. Now, this is being fantastically used not only in the individual coaching, but also in the group coaching that we do. It's a 4-step journey where you identify your goals. By the way, this is designed on the GROWS model. Your whole Lumina Spark scores comes into it. Now, in order to achieve those goals, what are the scores that will come in your way? What are the scores that you can leverage? And what are the things that you can work on? What are the fuels that you already have but you haven't used? What are some of the areas where maybe you're not putting the brakes at the right time? Everything gets covered in digital coach. And I would say not so much in the IT industry, ironically speaking. Digital coach has been used with our clients who are more in the service industries, and also some people in the some of the clients in pharma industry. They have been using more of digital coach. And then journey to composure. Journey to composure is, again, it is on Lumina's IT platform. The basic part of this is how can you manage your overextensions, meaning your stress behaviors, by using the energy of something else. So this is a full design wherein you identify your overextensions, and then it digitally takes you to some of your high scores wherein you don't have stress responses, how you can leverage those in order to steadily overcome your stress reactions. That's called journey to composure. Now, these are the 3 technology platforms of Lumina. Now, closing the session, I think this is something we've all talked about. It is a combination of Carl Jung's framework and Big 5. 4 archetypes, 8 aspects, 24 qualities. It opens like the layers of onion, giving detail and detailed information. And the 3 persona view, which I think, as far as I know, or maybe it's my bias because I'm a Hogan coach also, that Hogan offers a very detailed view of 3 personalities. And we do have definitely, now this is the time for sales pitch, because we're the Lumina distributors. If you want to get qualified in Lumina Spark, you can definitely reach out to Shanti. She will be able to help you get batches and special pricing that we have from Lumina for the ICF chapter members throughout India. And with this, I would just like to thank you all for accommodating us at this time of the day on a Monday. And I know some of you would be already late for dinner. So thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Anjani. Every time I co-facilitate with you or I just be an audience to you, I have extra stories and examples that I don't know how you get it impromptu, or you have a repository somewhere here. So thank you so much for that, Anjani.
Thanks, Neha. Thanks, Anjani. It's been a delightful session. You can see that in the text chat already. People have enjoyed, and if I get any queries, I'll be happy to share them with you to take it forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ICF Bengaluru, for having us here. Absolutely love the participation and the energy. I feel the energy, honestly. You know, the thing about being virtual is sometimes you may feel you can't feel it, like the real energy, but I feel it. And I think everyone was just great. Thank you very much for encouraging us.
Yeah, and special thanks to Shanti for coordinating all this and taking care of all the last minute hiccups.
No worries at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanti, for organizing this. We really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Glad,
Thank you so much.
Lakshmi.
Thank you, Shanti.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.